Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a now deleted user in the True Off My Chest subreddit. The post is titled, "I'm full of regrets. I believe that my husband cheated on me when he didn't. Cheating is something that I have always had strong opinions about. I have been cheated on before and it sucked. Everyone knows that I don't forgive cheaters. So when my sister-in-law staged an elaborate scheme about my husband cheating, I ended the relationship. Unfortunately, my relationship wasn't the only one affected. My sister-in-law Lisa, her best friend Emma, and my husband Jamie were best friends growing up. Emma got married early when she was 20. Her husband was abusive and she has 2 children with him. She got divorced 10 years later and was finally free from his abuse. She suffered a lot, however, and was in therapy along with her children. I met Jamie 4 years ago. We got married 2 years later. Everything was just awesome. What I didn't know was that Emma wanted Jamie, and Lisa made it her mission when Emma finally got divorced to bring her brother and best friend together. I didn't know any of this, so I never realized there was a hidden agenda when I overheard Lisa talking about how Jamie was cheating on me with a married colleague of his a few months into my marriage. In hindsight, I can tell it was staged because she provided unnecessary details and was very loud. She meant for me to hear it. I confronted her then and there, and she played very flustered, apologizing and begging me not to ruin my marriage. She told me Jamie loved me and that she never wanted to lose me as a sister, but at the same time, she provided me with pictures and texts that were all photoshopped of my husband and his colleague. She begged me not to mention where I found out the information, and I was grateful for her support, promising her not to expose her as the source. I confronted my husband with everything, and he adamantly refused to admit to anything. It hurt me more that he never admitted nor apologized, ever. He asked me where I got this information from, but I kept my promise and told him it was an anonymous tip. I even went so far as to contact the colleague's husband, thinking it was the right thing to do at the time. The colleague is a very beautiful woman with whom my husband worked closely for many hours a day. I felt a bit jealous of that and confided my fears to Lisa. She used it against me. I asked for a divorce and the colleague's husband did too. After that, Lisa, who I thought was my friend and who called me her sister, disappeared from my life as if I never existed. Even when I bumped into her, she was short with me and indifferent. Months went by and I was still heartbroken, processing the separation. My husband stopped trying to make me see reason and agreed to divorce. He said he wanted to move on. I started having doubts. Why is Lisa doing this now? She was my friend who wanted the best for me, yet now she didn't even answer my texts. I followed both her and Emma on Instagram and started seeing how Emma and my husband gradually began hanging out. At least once a week, either Emma or Lisa shared stories about my husband with Emma and her children. What I did next is very questionable, and yet I don't regret it at all. I was desperate and needed the truth. I was still very good friends with Lisa's on-again, off-again boyfriend, Mike's sister. I told her my doubts and everything. I explained that Lisa was my source, claiming my husband was cheating and that I was starting to doubt everything, asking for their help to unearth the truth. Mike was easier to persuade to help me than I expected. He had Lisa's passcodes and went through her messages with Emma, and there was everything. They had plotted every detail. They used my idiocy and insecurity to make me throw away the best thing that had ever happened to me. He sent me all the proof I needed, including the original photos they used to Photoshop my husband with his colleague. My world was turned upside down again, and I went into a deeper depression. I stayed in bed and called in sick for 2 weeks. I had not only ruined my life, but also another family. I don't know why I'm writing here, whether I want advice or just want to vent. I don't blame anyone but my own stupidity for ruining my marriage. I should have trusted my husband and the love he'd shown me. I should have been honest with him about everything and where I got the news of his supposed cheating. I should not have gone to hurt the colleague and her family just because I thought her beautiful. She has since quit her job and moved, but I still had her husband's contact information. I felt I had to at least apologize. We met and I told him everything. He was so angry with me. He was crying and yelling, and all I could think was that I deserved every insult he threw my way. I found the colleague on Instagram and messaged her everything along with a long apology. She didn't answer me. I don't know if I should tell my husband too. I know I don't deserve him at all, and I know that he doesn't want me anymore, but maybe he should just know what Emma is doing and what she's capable of doing. He deserves to know the truth. Maybe I could start by reassuring him that I'm not trying to win him back. I'm just trying to help him understand and apologize. I need to apologize for everything. I don't know. User Avamia said, of course you should show your ex-husband. While you're at it, share all the proof Mike sent you. To this OP said, that's what I want to do. I'm not sure though. I've made it very clear to him that I don't want anything to do with him anymore, so I don't know if I should ask to meet him or just send him a text with everything. A deleted user said, this can't be real, no way is this real. This requires too many sociopaths to actually be real. If my brother had done this to me and I found out, he would be dead the next day, and that poor innocent family was upended and destroyed as a result. I don't know how they could survive that or even come close to reconciling. This had better be some sort of creative writing exercise. Another deleted user said, of course you need to tell him what a snake his sister and her friend are. How dare they do that? You shouldn't have followed her off the cliff and maybe should have trusted your husband more, but to be clear, you were manipulated and he needs to know now before this goes any further. I would go full scorched earth on her and blow her world up just like she did yours. You can't let her get away with that. Update. Thank you for being so supportive. I honestly didn't expect that, given how long and boring my story was. I remember being so desperate and wanting to tell everything from the beginning and put it out there, maybe to try and make excuses for myself and for what I did. I appreciate that you wanted to help. I decided not to meet up with Jamie. Every time I tried to text him and ask for a meeting, I panicked. That wasn't a good sign at all. I wanted him to know everything in detail, but I tend to be all over the place when I'm panicking. So I decided to email him instead. I made a lot of drafts, cross-checked all the information, and waited a whole day before sending it, adding some details here and there that I had forgotten to include. I sent him all the manipulated pictures and the originals, along with every screenshot Mike sent me from Lisa and Emma's conversations. I made it clear, however, that I wasn't trying to manipulate him into taking me back because I knew that what I did was unforgivable. I just wanted to warn him about who he was dealing with. I told him that I had been watching Emma and Lisa's Instagram and had seen that he was getting cozier with Emma. I wanted him to know all the facts if he was dating her. Just the thought of him dating Emma, I can't even handle it. I texted him that I had sent him an important email. He didn't answer me. On Wednesday, when I came back from work, Lisa, Emma, and Emma's 2 children were waiting for me outside my building. When I let them in, Lisa started yelling and threatening me. She told me to call Jamie and Mike to say that I had made up all of this because I'm a pathetic loser. She warned me that I didn't want her as an enemy because she would make my life miserable. Believe me. She said, "You don't want me to make destroying your already miserable life my mission." Emma just smiled the whole time. She later said that my husband always had a crush on her and that he wouldn't believe my nonsense because he could finally be with her. The thing is, it felt like Lisa was more angry that Mike knew what she did rather than her brother knowing. She seemed really annoyed with Emma and kept telling her to shut up. I couldn't get them out of my apartment, so I just left and called Jamie. I told him that they were at my place and that I couldn't get them out. 15 minutes later, I saw them leave. Jamie then texted me that he wanted to come over if I was alright with it. He told me that he was very hurt that I would doubt him like this and believe rumors. I told him everything again without panicking. I explained that I loved and trusted Lisa, she was like my sister. I asked him to put himself in my shoes. If he happened to hear Lisa talk about me being unfaithful, would he have any doubts about his loving sister's intentions? He stayed the night and left the next morning. We have been texting several times a day and talking on the phone and FaceTime every night since then. He says that he loves me but doesn't know what to do. He is very hurt by his sister and Emma, of course, but even by me. He hasn't mentioned canceling the divorce process yet, which is understandable. I've turned his life upside down twice in such a short period. On a happier note, my husband's colleague and her husband are back together. My husband met with them and apologized. I've already told them everything, but my husband felt the need to apologize personally. Mike has ended things with Lisa. Lisa and Emma's relationship is very strained now. Both have blocked me on Instagram, of course, but apparently Lisa is blaming Emma for Mike leaving her, while Emma has tried to throw Lisa under the bus by telling Jamie she was innocent in all of this. I really hope my husband forgives me, and I promise that I will make it up to him and love him. User Dark Macaria said, "Oh my days, what an ordeal. I hate toxic people like that. Jamie was with you and had all the opportunities to be with the other woman, but he didn't. The only way they could see a chance to get in was to break him down and reach him while he was vulnerable. It's awful, and insecurities can be horrific things. I truly hope you get it sorted, lovely, as you were horribly manipulated in an awful game." To this, OP said, "Emma believed that he couldn't pursue her because she was married. He admitted that he had a crush on her when he was a teenager, before she got married. When she divorced her husband, Jamie was already married to me." A deleted user said, "I'm so happy that this ended on a decent note and that your husband believed you. This story made me incredibly angry for you when it came out. I'm glad you got justice, and I hope you and your husband can work things out. It just might take some time. Take care." This next story involves two separate posts made by a user named No Cauliflower in the AITAH subreddit and the True Off My Chest subreddit. The first is titled AITAH for telling my wife to stop crying about missing out on our daughter's wedding. As the title says, my wife and I have 3 children, Brett, Amy, and Lynn. Let me say, I love all my children in their own way, but no child has ever given me a headache like Lynn. She's our wild child. She got a college degree at 16, began working and saving up, moved to Louisiana once she turned 18, got more college degrees, and lives a pretty nice life. I'm proud of her, of course, but she has always been our wildly independent, argumentative, intelligent little girl. She's the more social one too. She's covered in tattoos, piercings, and always has funky hair. I'm proud of her, I love her, but she's always been our non-traditional child. Lynn met her husband, Brad, when she first moved to Louisiana. Brad is like Lynn, tattoos and piercings up the wazoo, non-traditional. He's a good kid and I like him. He protected Lynn and has been by her side through many things. I actually love that kid for protecting my baby girl. Lynn will be the first child of ours to be married, so when we heard the news about their engagement, my wife was super excited. She started talking about wedding planning and all that girl stuff. Lynn and Brad were both upfront about not wanting a wedding and just wanting a small party with mainly family and some friends as a celebratory thing. My wife was very upset and pushed Lynn until she reluctantly agreed to plan a wedding. Not even a week into wedding planning, Lynn and my wife had a spat about floral arrangements, which led to Lynn flying back home to Louisiana. Lynn announced that they had eloped and would be planning a small, intimate get-together in New Orleans around Halloween time. My wife lost it, and she and Lynn got into a huge argument over the phone, which led to them not speaking. My wife cries every time this situation is brought up, saying she missed out on her little girl's special day. After a few weeks of this nonsense, I finally snapped and said, "Why are you surprised? Lynn didn't want a wedding in the first place. She's our least traditional child. I'm just glad we at least got the engagement announcement. Stop crying about it and wait till Brett or Amy get married because they are the ones that will actually enjoy that wedding stuff." My wife called me a few names and has been avoiding me. I really don't mean to be an asshole, but Lynn is the last child I'd expect to want a big, grand wedding. I mean, for goodness sake, she's a nurse who does hair on the side and is also a practicing witch. That child makes no sense. I'd more expect Brett to want the big wedding when he and his boyfriend eventually get engaged. It also just felt wrong that she tried forcing it on Lynn. Lay the brutal honesty on me. Do I roll over and apologize, or continue to stick up for Lynn over this mess? User Digity said, "The fact that Lynn canceled not only your wife's wedding plans, but also her original wedding plans really speaks to just how far your wife was pushing things. I get the feeling that the flowers were barely the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the ways your wife massively overstepped. You are totally NTA. You may need to consider getting your wife into counseling to help curtail her need to control her children's lives." User Revolutionary Cow said NTA. "She didn't want the wedding, and when she agreed to a small celebration, your wife tried to bulldoze her into a larger one. Tell your wife that if she keeps this up, Lynn will end up going no contact because your wife has forgotten how to be an adult. Remind her that the marriage isn't about her." User Sleepwalker said NTA. Reading this, I have to ask, how much time did your wife spend trying to mold Lynn into her ideas of what proper girl things are while she was growing up? Getting married doesn't require a wedding. Good for you for supporting your daughter and her husband. And I hope you continue to do so because I feel like this is only the beginning if they decide to have children. To this, OP said, honestly, my wife struggled a lot with Lynn. She says her teenage years were the toughest, but in my opinion, that's not true at all. Lynn has always been strangely mature. She never cared much about partying or dating. She was always planning her future and wanting to be successful and true to herself. A month later, OP gave us an update post. This is just me venting, and I am so exhausted with my wife lately. Our little girl's wedding was back in October, and it was a disaster because of my wife. My wife and daughter had gotten into a fight before the wedding, but seemingly made up a few days prior, so we flew down and planned to stay until after the wedding. When we got there, my wife started complaining about her hair. My daughter suggested a few salons around New Orleans that could fit her in before the wedding. My wife asked if she would just do her hair, and my daughter agreed. That's when the disaster started. My wife's hair was too warm, then too cool, then too warm again. My daughter had done her hair 3 times in a row, spending 6 hours each time because my wife has a lot of hair and wanted to be foiled back to back. My daughter said she couldn't do it again for the 4th time because she didn't want to overprocess her hair and that her body was killing her. She mentioned she was becoming burnt out from her nursing job, her hair job, and all the wedding planning and running around. This 3rd appointment was on the day of the wedding, by the way. Before it started, my wife said, "Don't take another 10 hours to do it." My wife became very short and snippy with her and complained about her hair the entire time. She kept sending my daughter pictures of hair colors she liked and telling her she colored it too gray and cool. My daughter was in tears during the wedding because her feet were blistered, making it hard for her to walk in the heels she had purchased for her special day. Her husband gently asked us if we could go home the day after the wedding, and I, of course, agreed. I continuously told my wife that her hair looked amazing and urged her to leave our daughter alone, but she just kept saying this is her job. I snapped at her after the 2nd appointment and said enough was enough. I also learned that my daughter had spent over $400 just on products for my wife's hair. My little girl and her husband make enough to sustain themselves comfortably, but I know they wanted to tighten their belts after their wedding and start saving for a house since they plan on trying for kids soon. After the wedding, my wife completely blew up once we got home, saying her hair was a mess and that she would have to pay a lot of money to get it fixed. She texted our daughter and ripped into her saying what she wanted wasn't that hard and that she had completely destroyed her hair. Our daughter simply replied that she was sorry and hasn't spoken to us since. She sent me a happy Thanksgiving text and told me she loved me, but she hasn't talked to her mom since that message and only keeps in regular contact with her siblings. I am beyond pissed off. My daughter worked hard, coming off a 16-hour nursing shift and immediately doing her mom's hair for 6 hours, followed by 2 more 6-hour appointments back to back, and my wife is still ungrateful. This isn't the woman I married. This isn't the mother I know. If I have to hear about her precious hair one more time, I'm going to leave because no hairstyle is worth losing her relationship with our daughter. User Inside Dreams said, it seems like your wife owes your daughter an apology as well as the $400 your daughter spent going above and beyond. If your wife is not willing to reach out and mend fences, especially with potential grandkids on the way, I'd be disappointed and reevaluating the situation too. In the meantime, keep in touch with your daughter. I'm sure she would appreciate it. User Scramble said, this sounds like it wasn't actually about the hair. It seems that she was purposefully sabotaging the week and looking for a reason to go after her afterward. Something else is going on there. User Maximum said, if this is really not the woman you married or the mother you know, then I would immediately get your doctors involved. A complete change of character like that, even if it has progressed over time, is likely a symptom of illness, possibly mental illness or something affecting her brain. To this, User Body said, I was thinking the same thing. People don't usually become raging narcissists as adults without something physically happening. Lyme disease affected my mom's brain and radically changed her personality until she was able to get on antibiotics. I hope you find a cause and can help your wife. But if there is no medical reason, I hope you have the strength to leave.